I am grateful to be here and proud to be in Oregon. And I have gotten to know a lot of people, and our next speaker I've gotten to know this year pretty well. He's more than a friend, he's an acquaintance. Okay, it was a joke and you got that. Good, I'm so glad. I have been in relationship with him because we've been discussing, it's very difficult to get done. There's a lot of little things going on, but we've been discussing an opiate trade program to begin here in Portland, where we can get free marijuana to the veterans, people on the street, people who have opiate addictions, prescriptions. And I know that every farmer and every manufacturer in Oregon will be glad to donate anything to this program. So we've been talking about it. Steve is a very smart man. I have found that the OLCC is my partner, is my friend, and I'm grateful that they gave me a license. I am their partner, they are my partner, and I'm proud to know this man. I'm proud to know all the people that work for him. Actually, Steve isn't really that good or that smart. It's really everyone that works for him. I mean, these guys are really stars. There's a few of them standing back. Wave your hand. They get nothing. They're always in the office. Hello. Give them a hand. They make Steve look great. But he is doing everything he can to make cannabis work in Oregon. Everything, every day, finding solutions, every day running into more problems than finding solutions and fighting and not giving up. He is our director, he is our steward, and I am proud to introduce the director of the OLCC, Steve Marks. Thank you. And the tacos are going to be early in the afternoon.
Every time I see him, I want to put on sunglasses, you know? Thank you, Jim, for that very kind introduction. You know, I came to know Jim. He requested a couple hours of my time very early this year, and he came in and talked to me about his vision for helping people who are on opioids and addicted. And I learned of his passion for that. He had some interesting ideas. I explained to him that we probably weren't going to change a Schedule I drug with another Schedule I drug inside our retail facilities, but that we would look at that and work with it. And I appreciate his deep personal commitment to this issue, and it's obviously very personal. And I've appreciated his work and look forward to continue to work with you on that. Yeah. Jim acknowledged my staff. I want to point out just a few of the managers and program people because we've had some changes, some are new. I think Jason Hansen is in the room somewhere. He's doing the medical part of the inspections and running that. Jason, stand up, please. Next to him is Shannon Hoffeditz, who is our public safety director, so she's in charge statewide. In the back is Anthony, and I've only said your name a couple of times, Glastoski. Close. He is doing packaging and labeling for us now, so he's new to that. I know a lot of you will want to be talking with him. And then there's TJ Sheehy, who's our data analyst. And you'll meet the others on the panel, but some of the people, and we have others here that support us every day, a lot of new faces. We're growing very fast at OLCC. So with that, we'll have a panel following of our staff experts. As Jim duly pointed out, the real expertise behind this operation will be answering some questions about the recreational program and about new medical inspections. So this morning, I want to share with you some ideas on how we can improve the OLCC system. Now, I'm not a policymaker, I'm an administrator, but we can't be afraid to put ideas out there to be publicly discussed because, you know, good ideas and ideas deserve a healthy public debate and discussion. And what I want to explore is the question of what we do to move past this remaining clash of values between old regulations and where we are today and the new times in front of us, to a point where we can maybe even study the possibility of an opioid trade program to figure out a research framework for allowing and then evaluating the transition from opioids to marijuana and the efficacy of that and the help that it could provide people's lives. Now, I'm not talking about switching Schedule I drugs at our retail, but how do we create a friendlier system for the physician-patient relationship and to explore this possibility without having to go outside of our system to make that happen? So it's heartening to me that we have engaged licensees, many of you for many years, and Jim, who are in this to figure that out. It's going to help make Oregon's regulated cannabis system open to all Oregonians, and that's very, very important to us. In 2014, when voters passed ballot measure 91, there were a lot of skeptics. Maybe even many of you in this room, that questioned whether OLCC was the right place to regulate cannabis in Oregon. By reputation or mythology, our agency wasn't well regarded by the cannabis industry. But in the 3 short years since then, we put together a system that now allows consumers to purchase safe cannabis products legitimately produced by our licensees in a regulated system. Now, the system is very imperfect, but the progress we've made, our arrival at this point, is because we listened and consulted and worked with you and worked with this industry, which has produced a great range of products, exactly what Measure 91 envisioned. Now, we're a regulatory agency. I think of us as a consumer protection agency. Plus, we have some responsibilities for medical marijuana, which means that we need to care about patients and customers. Now, we've been doing the same with the medical marijuana community, listening, consulting, and working where we have oversight and influence. And that's despite the fact of our recent decision to limit the quantities of flower available to medical patients. And I want to acknowledge that going forward, we have to be we have to work more closely with the Cannabis Commission before taking action that impacts patients. Although in this instance, I think we were justified in taking the emergency action because of the serious nature of the abuses and because the problem remained as a systemic weakness in the system. And I just point out that there are other avenues for those patients today. We didn't limit concentrates. Certainly you can still get shared flower, and there are remaining dispensaries for people to get their products. There was also some very good ideas that came forward at the Rules Advisory Committee, putting in place a monthly aggregated limit, if we can manage that. And Dr. Knox talked about an A and B medical card that would entitle people to greater quantities of products. So you're going to see us work with you to find a solution in the coming months. But while Oregon has crafted a set of rules enabling the cannabis industry to emerge as a significant force in the state's legal economy, we have an obligation to Oregonians at OLCC to ensure that product produced in our state does not find its way into illegal markets and does not cross state lines. 3 years ago, our agency's initial focus was to establish a licensee supply chain. This meant that in addition to licensing brand new cannabis businesses, we also needed to facilitate the transfer of medical growers, processors, and dispensaries into our regulated system. Now, we've done that, which is why now our focus has shifted to oversight of those 2,000 plus licensees that are in our system. And that's been evident through our compliance activities. We've been out doing minor decoy operations with retailers. We've been using the cannabis data tracking system to detect irregular and potentially illegal activities. And we've required outdoor producers to notify us when there's a harvest. Now, there's some discussion about that, but I think we made it an easy button that they can hit the morning of harvest to schedule that. So I can report to you that we're out there in Operation Good Harvest right now, which is a saturation inspection effort of all outdoor grows, or outdoor grows that we can do. And that's underway. I was down in Southern Oregon last week, and the results are, I think, heartening. 70% of our licensees that are being inspected have no issues. And we should applaud those folks for meeting a complicated set of regulatory structures and doing it well. Another maybe 20% have some challenges. They're going to need some education. There will be some violations, some level of fines, but there's things you can get past, and about another 10% of our licensees may not remain in this business because of their behavior and actions, and that's exactly how it should be. So these are preliminary results, so we'll see what the final looks like. I think we're going to be upward of 400, 500 inspections during the course of Croptober harvest season in Oregon. But just as when we started the minor decoy problem and then saw correspondingly better results, I'm hoping that we see even better results as the Good Harvest operation continues. That's certainly my hope. But these are the kind of steps that we need to take to make sure that our regulated system isn't so porous that it's predictably leaking product into the illegal market. We owe that to voters, elected officials, Oregonians who place their confidence in us to establish this new legal cannabis market. All Oregonians and the industry are getting what they should expect from us, that we are doing our job. Now, a legal regulated adult use system may have only been a pipe dream in earlier generations of growers rooted in Oregon's storied cannabis history, but their pioneering efforts did pave the way for the establishment of Oregon's medical marijuana program. And I think that we're all aware that the creation and ascension of the adult use system has had a tremendously disruptive impact on the OMMP system. There were promises made in good faith to not harm the medical program. Establishing the recreational system has resulted in patients getting separated from growers, and today many medical marijuana grows are tracked in the cannabis tracking system. The framework supporting the medical marijuana system is changing, not through any fault of policymakers or advocates, but because the rules were put in place at a different time, in a different era, and they stand in stark contrast to where we are today. Now, we want to make sure that the rapid development of the recreational marijuana marketplace does not eclipse the needs of medical patients who truly and legitimately need access to their cannabis medicine. Navigating a course to ensure patient access requires us to use existing guideposts so that we focus on what works in practice as well as what works in good public policy. The Oregon Medical Marijuana Act has provided some of our state's physician pathways to using cannabis to treat individual patients with a range of ailments and illnesses, and in doing so to understand the efficacy of its medical properties. The knowledge generated from charting this application of medical cannabis, while untested by the rigors of medical trials, provides guardrails for Oregon to establish additional safeguards, standardizing doctor-patient relationships where this treatment approach can be more widely considered and understood. As the conventional wisdom around prescribing cannabis continues to shift to appreciate its medical and palliative effects, the OLCC will work with the Oregon Cannabis Commission as they chart a course that helps more MDs become comfortable in prescribing medical cannabis. We need to do this because OMA is 20 years old. It's due for a refresh, an upgrade that still contains its structure and fundamental foundation of making sure that patients are able to obtain their medicine. 2 years ago, OMMP dispensaries began migrating into the OLCC system, and we worked to ensure that medical-grade products were available within that system. Today, medical-grade marijuana products represent anywhere between 10 to 15% of overall cannabis sales. But patients' ability to consistently obtain medical-grade cannabis has been altered by the realignment of dispensaries becoming OLCC retailers. The OLCC already allows cannabis delivery, but it's restricted to cities and county locations where the retailers operate. For those OMMP cardholders who are infirmed or don't live near OLCC dispensaries, or one of the few remaining dispensaries in the OMMP, we need to look at creating a delivery system that works for them. Just as the traditional practice of medicine utilizes targeted treatments to combat illness and disease, medical marijuana patients depend on specific strains of products to treat their ailments and conditions. We need to work with OLCC producers to ensure that there's strain development that focuses on what patients need, what delivers positive patient outcomes for them and others. That means ensuring that producers are able to provide their craft products to our retailers who can then deliver them into the hands of medical patients. This underscores another gap a gap Oregon can help close, creating an environment that supports bona fide patient research. We're hemmed in by the limitations of federal law and regulations, but again, in cooperation with the Cannabis Commission, we need to examine new ways to fund, structure, and conduct research about cannabis's medical benefits. In turn, we need the Cannabis Commission to provide us the guidelines on patient dosage and supply. Now, these concepts that I've shared with you are not available under OLCC's system today, and many of them aren't even under our jurisdiction. It's up to policymakers and the industry working together to move from the old delivery model to a new delivery model that treats cannabis as medicine, as a time-tested medical model resembling traditional pharmacies that could differentiate medical needs with appropriate strains and dosing. Is certainly a commonly understood approach. Such an approach to dispensing cannabis medicine would ensure plentiful cannabis for patients battling debilitating diseases and illness, and sufficient amounts of cannabis for patients with minor maladies. As Dr. Rachel Knox suggested at our Rules Advisory Committee meeting, perhaps we should have an A and B medical card that would allow that distinction to be made at the retail level. So my commitment for our agency is that we will keep open the avenues for enhanced patient accessibility as we become a greater point of contact for patients because of our scale, our size, and our distribution channels. It's clear that OLCC is statewide. We have more retail operations than Starbucks does in this state. We have the opportunity to use that to do the job better. And we're going to need your help working with the Cannabis Commission, the legislature, as we work through the ethical and economic and value clashes that limit our ability to provide the right services to the right patients at the right time. Whatever's decided, we'll implement it. So now's the time to rethink and reimagine our role with the medical marijuana community, just as the commercial cannabis community reimagined its role with us 3 years ago. So for 3 years from now, and 3 years from now, Oregon is as well known for being patient-friendly as it is for providing consumer access to quality cannabis in a well-regulated market. That's what I think we're all looking for. Thank you very much, and the panel will follow.